So Tara Reade, as we all know, was one of the few brave women, especially during the 2020 presidential election cycle, to confront and call out Joe Biden for his, and I got to be careful with these words because we're on the YouTubes, assault and other heinous actions that not only did to her, but to other women. Unfortunately, Tara Reade, due to her bravery, was put on the chopping block, but not only by the Democratic Party, but by corporate media and ignored by organizations like Me Too and Time's Up. Hey, folks, when have you last seen Me Too and Time's Up? Where are they at? Oh, heaven forbid they actually became organizations that are nothing but hypocritical and really don't help. And in fact, when women do come forward, especially when it comes time to challenge Democratic politicians, because Biden isn't the only Democratic politician with a questionable past and history of abuse and assault, they were left out there in the wilderness. And Tara Reade was left on her own. She's one of the dauntless few and one of the few brave individuals to be consistent. And she's also a great contributor to our allies and good friends at Indie News Network. Shout out to them. And she recently had a sit-down interview with Tucker Carlson. Now, I'm just going to play just at least half of this video. I encourage everyone to please see the full video on Tucker Carlson's social media page, on his X account. Look, her story still needs to be told. And what she has gone through is so unimaginable. So I'm glad that she was able to still speak her mind and speak her piece. We've had her on the show before as well. So let's go ahead and play this video and hear her story.
So your lawyers have sued the Biden Department of Justice for misconduct. Tell us about the suit, why you filed it, what you hope to achieve by it.
Yeah, well, my attorney actually had filed a complaint with the Inspector General about the way I was treated by the FBI and DOJ and how they were harassing me. And they didn't receive a response. Surprise, surprise. So after we waited, there was no response. He filed a tort claim, and it's for $10 million. And basically what the outcome will be, hopefully, is that they will open my FBI files and then expunge them. And the criminal case that has been opened against me in Northern California, the one that's sealed, will be revealed. And because that was opened by DOJ and FBI, where they took all my Twitter communications, now X, it's called, but Gmail, you name it, all my social media was taken under sealed warrants. The only reason I know about the sealed warrants and it was publicized is because a Twitter lawyer had called and told me that this has happened, and they had made a motion in court to tell me. And so this case had impaneled a grand jury, so it went pretty far. So it's just like shy of indictment. But what are they going to indict me for? Well, they won't tell me. Now, as an American citizen, that's infuriating, right?
But I think I am confused. I think a lot of people watching this are confused. You, of course, are most famous for recounting in public your experience, a sexual assault, and I think it was a sexual assault by then Senator Joe Biden in an elevator when you worked for him.
Not an elevator, corridor.
Corridor, I beg your pardon. And unlike a lot of people who make these claims, you have contemporaneous evidence in your mother's call to Larry King Live, which came out years later. It's an amazing story.
And again, shout out to the internet, because you got a lot of internet sleuths out there who actually found it. You know, there's a lot of old videos out there that are archived. If you follow Hardlens Media, especially when we do our Rumble show, on yesterday's show, we played a video from 1988. Oh, yeah. Back when, journalism still investigated things. And we saw how the media was calling out the dangers and influence of a little-known organization. You never heard of it. It's called AIPAC. And heaven forbid, you will never see a segment like that ever in this day and age. If you don't follow Hardlens Media on Rumble, you're missing out. You're missing out, folks. You're missing out, people.
And I think it's a credible story. But what did you do wrong? How did you wind up the subject of a sealed potential indictment, of a criminal investigation by the U.S. government? What was your crime?
I think not shutting up. I think because I just wouldn't stop talking. I kept trying to push for an investigation. If you recall, Jen Psaki, she was asked one question one time. Peter Ducey, I think, asked the question and said, about me, about Tara Reade. And she said, oh, that's been litigated. It was never litigated. She lied outright. It's never been litigated. It's never been investigated. And I was asking for an investigation. All they did was pay money to have media hit pieces done on me.
But of course,
and we here at Hardlens Media, and I'm going to try and keep my pausing to a minimum here, because I think it's important that we hear her voice. But we here at Hardlens Media, the crew at Indie News Network, and a few other people involved in independent media, were always calling out these hit pieces, because I remember in 2016, throughout 2016 and 2020, the rise and influence of Me Too and Time's Up. In theory, what those two organizations could have done was really, shine a light on abusive men. And dare I say it, yes, abusive women in positions of power abusing their employees or people underneath them. And sadly, that toxicity is still out there. But what I found interesting is that here you have Tara Reade coming forward. You have her speaking her truth. You have her speaking about her experience. And let's face it, due process must happen. Innocent until proven guilty. I know. But Tara was vilified right away, turned into a bad guy throughout the entire 2020 primary and 2020 election cycle, to where the media was calling her the villain, saying that her story was not true. Now, there is a thing called due process, and there are other people who've called out and shined a light on Biden's questionable behavior. But Tara was never given that chance. She was made into a bad guy because, of course, Vote Blue, no matter who, was easily triggered and said, oh, we can't have anything hurt our Joe Biden. Hypocrisy much, Vote Blue, no matter who? Let's continue listening to the rest of her story.
Of course they did. And you were attacked. The whole believe all women thing turned out not to be true, I guess.
Right. No, it's not true. There's no Me Too.
There's no Me Too. But a criminal investigation into you is a completely separate category.
Yeah.
And really an escalation of a kind most Americans can't understand. Like, why would they possibly be criminally investigating you? Do you know?
There were two. Yeah. I mean, the first one was for perjury, when I was an expert witness, and it took me lawyers and thousands of dollars to clear that. They had to drop that case. And then they came at me with the sealed case, which I can't do anything about because I'm not even supposed to know about it.
And this is the federal government?
Federal, the DOJ, FBI. And so
so there is a
sealed
this
case.
Is so Soviet, it's hard to believe it's what you're saying is true, but I think it's checkable. There's a sealed case against you. They're investigating you for a crime. They won't tell you what the crime is.
Right.
But it clearly is a felony, or they claim it's a felony.
Right.
Correct?
And I posted the sealed warrant, and that's been in the media. So the sealed warrant is visible. You can see the case number. Journalists have tried to look it up. My attorneys tried to look it up. No one will tell them what it is. Then they started coming at me in more subvert ways, which was, basically harassment, death threats. Particularly it amped up when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Representative Matt Gaetz asked me to testify in the whistleblowers panel. Like, I was going to talk about how difficult it is to be a whistleblower because I had been so targeted. And then when I was about to testify, I'll get to that part. But when I was about to testify, things really amped up as far as threats and undermining me. And it was hard to get a job. People thought I was a security threat. There were, innuendos. My reputation was destroyed. And we've talked about this. So my attorney basically said, okay, that's that. We're going to, file this complaint. And this came after, when I was here in Moscow, Russia. I came here to publicize my book and to oversee the translation of it. And I did an interview with Channel 1. And
which is a Russian TV channel.
And Channel 1 is sanctioned, apparently. And apparently that was, I was here for vacation. So I had packed literally for 5 days. Didn't have much with me. And then about midway through, I started getting messages that I was from former intelligence. They were trying to get me messages, whistleblowers, like, look, you're in danger of being indicted if you go back. I talked to my lawyers about
Indicted for what?
For FARA, the Foreign Registration Act, which is the same thing they went after Maria Butina for. And
Paul Manafort.
And Maria Butina, if you read, there's a really good article called The Spy Who Wasn't, who really lays out why she wasn't a spy, and she wasn't. She's now working for the State Duma. But She was definitely targeted, but that set the precedent. Paul Manafort, in her case.
But wait, just to be clear, you're an American who has accused the sitting president of sexually assaulting you while you worked for him as a young woman, and you have evidence to prove that that's true.
Right.
Contemporaneous evidence.
I want to pause this for a second, real quick here. We got a message. Shout out again to Indie News. Look, folks, Indie News Network has done a lot of great stuff. You know, I play a lot of songs from Jesse Jett, but Indie News has also done a lot of groundbreaking videos too. And we have played those videos on our show. They have a dedicated team. There's a lot of people involved in that organization, and they are being heavily suppressed and censored. Now, I've said on this show that I want to see more citizen journalists, and Tara Reade's part of it. And I just wanted to say, Tara, since you're watching, she says, thanks to Kit and Hard Lens Media. Let me just pull this video down here. First of all, Tara, no, I didn't do anything. You did, okay? You stepped up, you went forward, and you spoke your truth, okay? And I think it's important for all of us to remember this story and to keep on sharing it, to keep on talking about it. And dare I say it, one day there will be a better future. So all the best to you. And we're glad to hear your story. And I'm glad at least Tucker Carlson did a professional sit-down interview with you to hear your piece. Folks, I will never forget the hypocrisy that we saw in 2020. You know, people want to say that the mask off moment didn't happen in 1 year. It happened gradually. Many organizations and politicians, their masks fell off. And I do hope that in this election cycle, people do wake up. But let's continue on with the main story.
Which I think is key. And all of a sudden, you're the criminal because you wind up in a foreign city and you do a TV interview. Am I missing something?
Well, in 2019, if you recall, one of the smears that they made against me was that I was a Russian asset, even though I had no ties to Russia. Immediately.
Got to pause here. Again, the whole you're a Russian, a Russian, a Russian. That's weak sauce, okay? I don't tolerate that from anybody. And see, it's not only Democrats that do it, it's Republican politicians that do it. They use a smear tactic saying, oh, you're this, that, and the other. This is why I don't support neither party, okay? Vote independent and vote third party. But Tara was also a victim of this too, because everybody in 2020 with the vote blue no matter who mind virus, the brain worm that was going inside people's brains, was telling them, oh, if we don't vote for Biden, then Trump. I'm not afraid of a second Trump presidency. I'm more annoyed by it, okay? I'm annoyed by a potential Biden term, okay? I'm annoyed by that. I'm annoyed the fact that we got the United States, the best we can do is seeing two old men fight over a cold bowl of potato soup. Joe Biden versus Trump. Yeah, I'm real excited for that. That's the best we could do. That's why, personally, I am ever hopeful that we could see a potential RFK Jr., Donald Trump, and yes, libertarian debate on May 25th. I would love to see that. That would be a great debate for me, but who knows? Sometimes you just don't get what you want. Let's continue on.
Immediately out the gate. That was the Biden campaign told that to the New York Times. They said that was their first response, not a denial, not, anything else. They said, oh, she's a Russian asset. And that started in 2019 and got spread around. And then it continued on and had a life of its own because it was spread by former Obama staff, Edward Isaac Dovier, people like that, who have some clout on social media and people listen. So unfortunately, there was that kind of overhanging it. So when I came to Moscow.
So you make this allegation against the president of the United States, then a candidate, a credible allegation. Once again, I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think it was credible. I think it is credible. I think it's true. And they don't even respond. They just accuse you of being a traitor to your country. Immediately.
That was the first response, not even a denial at first. So I thought that was interesting.
And the media amplify this.
Oh, yes. New York Times amplified it. Washington Post did. Everyone did. Politico, they did their due diligence for the empire, I guess. I didn't really understand the media at that time. Now you have to understand, I'm a regular citizen. I don't have a PR team. I don't have lawyers. Now I have a lawyer, but then I didn't have resources.
Where were you living?
I was living in California, and I was really naive about, the media. And now I understand. I think a lot of people in 2019, 2020 were still a little naive.
Just to be clear, it sounds like you've been a fairly liberal Democrat your whole life.
I was. I really had, really believed. I worked for Leon Panetta as an intern. I worked for Joe Biden. I worked as a Democratic operative on congressional campaigns. I was trained by Homeland Security. I was trained by Seattle Police to help with domestic violence. I was a trainer. I donated my time. I worked for Democrats. I believed in it wholeheartedly. And so it's been heartbreaking when I came forward with evidence how I was treated, how I still am treated. Like to this day, like I get called right now a defector, a traitor. I did back then before I left the US.
I keep stepping on your story, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just a remarkable story.
And it is, but it's also a tragic one too. You would expect news outlets to be neutral, or at least do their due diligence. New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, all these outlets that went ahead and slandered, smear her. Look, I know we're live right now, and obviously we're going to be clipping this video. But Tara, I don't know how you did it, but you are made out of strong steel, and you did it. Now, no one should go through this. If we lived in a just, ideal world, due process would take place, and people would hear your story and not vilify you. But we don't live in that world. And I think it's important we still talk about this story. And I'm very glad that the crew of INN has you as a contributor. But also, more importantly, you're still talking about your story. And this is why we need independent media. This is why we need to really create something far better than what we have here now. I understand, especially in 2020, why people were upset with Trump or seeing him potentially get elected. I know, I get it. But see, the thing is, folks, and I keep on repeating this over and over again, and sooner or later, it's going to stick. Sooner or later, all of you are going to wake up with that cold sweat and realize, there are far more evil politicians currently serving in office than Donald Trump. I mean, yeah, Trump has his problems, but at least he's up front with his BS. The most transparent president in U.S. history. I know. And before anyone says, oh, are you saying Trump's a truth teller? No. I'm just saying I know where I stand with Trump and where he stands on the issues. Now, I'm not going to vote for him, but you're turning him into something that he's not when we have politicians that are far more vile. And if people really knew just how sick some of our other squeaky clean individuals who are on the front page of the New York Times or Washington Post or Politico, I think people would vomit with rage. Hopefully someday people wake up.
Yeah.
When you lay it out and give the timeline, it's amazing what's happened to you. So just back to where you were before I interrupted you. So you're here on vacation to get a translation of your book done.
Yes.
And you do an interview with local TV, and then you start getting messages from informed people who you trust.
I want to pause this here. Sorry again. I'm trying my best not to pause. So already a hypocrite. But look, Deneen Grant brings us up. If she was accusing Trump, she would be a hero. Oh, I'm willing to bet if the situation was different. Oh, my goodness. The View, Ellen DeGeneres, everybody, all the media networks, they'd be singing a whole other different tune together. I could say that with absolute confidence.
Tara, you're in danger of being indicted. And what happens then?
Well, I would be put into a cage because with the FAR Act, it's a backdoor into the Espionage Act, essentially. It's the Federal Registration Act. So you have to register as a foreign agent registration Act. Yeah. It's administrative. They never used to even use it, but now they're using it as a backdoor into espionage. So you might recall the Uhuru Group, right?
Very well.
The
Black nationalists that we defended.
Right. They're being sentenced this month up to 10 years in prison. And I've read through all their whole legal case, and I have a law degree, so I'm interested in those things. And you know what the charge is? Sowing discord. So I want people to really hear this, because sowing discord shouldn't be a crime, and they shouldn't be able. But they're being
sowing discord.
Sowing discord. That's the term under the FAR Act and the backdoor into the Espionage Act. And so they're facing up to 10 years in prison or more.
And we're going to pause here. There's a lot more to the video. And yes, I'll be posting this original link to that goes to Tucker Carlson's X account. So I encourage everyone, please, if you're not doing so, Follow him on social media. You don't have to agree with everything that Tucker Carlson says, but I will give him this. He's doing great interviews with people who speak truth to power across the political spectrum. And I encourage all of you, and I'll be posting this link as well when I clip this video. I encourage everyone to please follow and subscribe to Indie News Network on all of their social media platforms. They have done phenomenal work, and they have wrongly been censored. And I stand against censorship, and they are one of our many allies in independent media. They got a great dedicated crew here. And to Tara Reade, I'm glad you're still speaking out your story. And it's long overdue that the American people, the media, give it a second listen.